Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a winter book recommendations video, as well as some books that I plan to read this winter. I am very much a mood reader as well as an atmospheric reader. I love when books take place during the same season, holiday, even setting as where I'm currently at in life. And I just think that makes the book so much more enjoyable. It makes you feel so much more immersed in the book. So I'm really excited about this video. I'm going to be telling you some of my favorite winter reads. And I'm also just really excited to do some winter reading because I think fall and winter reading are just like the coziest months and the coziest times to read. So let's just get right into it. Okay, starting strong, we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This book I did read in the winter. I actually can't remember if there's anything wintry about it besides the fact that it is so cozy, so whimsical, and just such a fun story to read. This book is a super whimsical, I think it's a cozy fantasy. It is set in the Regency era of Great Britain. I think it follows a girl, Dora, who literally lost half her soul from an incident with a fae when she was a child. And Dora is very weird because of that. Because she lost half her soul, she is very awkward and very weird, and she tends to mishandle a lot of social interactions, which is not great for the setting or time which this book takes place in. However, she ends up meeting a broody and kind of mean sorcerer, and that just puts her on a whole new journey in her life. I personally loved this book so much. I had such a great time reading it. It's a quick little read. I think I gave it 4.5 or 5 stars. And I think this is the perfect book to read during the winter. This next book is a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved this book. And this is a book that will probably make you cry, but at the very least, it will make you emotional. And that is The Great Alone by Kristin. This is a historical fiction book that takes place in the aftermath of the Vietnam War, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. This follows a family that moves to rural Alaska with pretty much no preparation, and they're just looking for a fresh start, but they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. Their first winter in Alaska and all of their winters in Alaska are some of the least forgiving times of their lives, that they have to face temperatures, isolation, and problems that they were not prepared for. And the way that the different people in this family handle these different circumstances is just so interesting to read about and try to understand. And the way that they face some of these problems definitely makes you think very hard about morals and what's right and wrong, and also just the way that society handles certain issues or deals with certain issues. This book will just make you very emotional. The characters in this book form this beautiful found family where they all look out for each other and they all care for each other. And in so many ways, this is such a beautiful book, and it also is such a devastating book, but it is one of my favorite books that I've ever read, and it has stuck with me ever since. I can never stop thinking about these characters and this book. Another thing I love about this book is that the atmosphere of Alaska genuinely feels like a character, the way that Kristin writes it. And I love that in a book. As you're probably noticing, not all of my winter recommendations are necessarily taking place in winter or even about winter in any way. But for me, it's just a feeling. It's just a cozy vibe. It's just books that I want to read during the winter. And for me, that is usually fantasy. In my head, fantasy books are winter books. And this one is a romantasy, The Courting of Bristol Keats. This book follows Bristol Keats, who recently lost both of her parents. And in a desperation to learn more about their deaths or potentially save them, She ends up in a Fey realm and makes a bargain with a Fey prince. I think he was a prince. That is potentially life-threatening. This is a pretty long book, but it is very character-driven. And if you aren't a fan of very in-depth character analysis, then you probably won't enjoy this. But I did enjoy it. It's a lot of not much plot happening while you're exploring the characters, but you do still get a lot of plot. I enjoyed the character analysis. I enjoyed the focus on the characters' thoughts and decision makings. Also, even though it is a long book, I remember the chapters being fairly short and pretty easy to get through. I recommend this book. I don't think I gave it too high of a rating, maybe like 3.5 or 4 stars, but I do remember enjoying it. And I do remember that it was definitely giving me winter cozy vibe. Okay, this next book, well, series of books are some of my all-time favorite books ever. I guess that's the same thing as all time, so I didn't need to say ever, but you get the point. These books are amazing, and if anyone ever asks me for a recommendation, I don't care who you are, I don't care what genre you usually read, I don't care. This will always be my answer if you ask me. And that is the Beartown Trilogy. You will probably see these books in all of my recommendation videos ever because I just love them so much. These books take place in a very small hockey obsessed town. There's an event that happens surrounding one of their star hockey players, one of the best hockey players they've had in a long time, during a time where they have had not a great hockey team and it's finally looking up for them. And these books pretty much revolve around analyzing these characters and their reactions and how they handle this situation. This doesn't follow 1 or 2 characters. It literally follows like all of the characters in the town, and you grow to love almost all of them. These are some of the most devastating, heartbreaking, emotional books I've ever read. I, not even lying, probably cried through this entire second book. I care so deeply about these characters. I can't even explain it. Fredrik Backman has the most beautiful writing. The way he writes things truly amazes me. He puts little things in your mind that are going to happen, like a little foreshadowing event. And then when you get to that moment in the book, it actually plays out way differently than you would expect. They just always catch me off guard. Truly, just the way he writes always catches me off guard. It is so beautiful. It's so lyrical and it's so unique. I have never read any books that are written anything like Fredrik Backman books are written. And I will read any book that he writes, especially if he continued to write in this town. This book, I actually have zero reason to put this in a winter recommendations video. I, however, just love recommending this book. And also, I think I read it in the winter, so it just gives me winter vibes. But that is The Raven Boys by Maggie. I think it's Stiefvater. I am so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This is the first book in a series that follows a group of teens that are basically treasure hunting. It's a little bit more deep than that. There's a little bit more of a complexity to what they are hunting for. I really love this book. It is YA, and I have kind of stopped reading a lot of YA books, but this one was so impactful to me. These characters meant so much to me. This is a slightly paranormal, slightly witchy book, but it also has elements of dark academia. It has like the most beautiful found family. It has some of the craziest twists and turns that I've ever read in a book. And overall, I just love this book, and I think it was one of my favorite books that I read last winter. So I think you should read this winter. This next book is the third book in the Elsie Silver Chestnut Spring series, which is Powerless. I do believe you technically do have to read the other 2 books before you read this one, but I'm still putting it in here because I read the Chestnut Spring series during the summer, and I thought they were going to be all very summery cowboy romances. And this one, especially out of the 5 books, was so wintry, and I remember reading it just wishing that I was reading it in the winter. I love this book so much. This was my favorite book in the whole series. This book follows Jasper and Sloane. Jasper is a pro hockey player, and Sloane, I can't remember if Sloane is a dancer or a ice skater, figure skater. No, she's a dancer. Sloane is a dancer. They are childhood friends, and Jasper is traumatized. He is broody. He is quiet. He's reserved. My favorite kind of man to read about. And Sloane is like the bubbly, sunshiny girl that he grew up with and opened up to as a child. They have a bit of an age gap, so it is not a childhood lover situation. It is the most beautiful friends to lovers book that I have had the chance to read. In their adulthood, they end up in the same city doing their jobs that they love. And after a almost marriage for Sloane, where Jasper kind of saves her from her wedding day, they end up on a new path together. And I loved this book so much. This is, in my opinion, a perfect winter romance book if you get through the two that come before it, which are also good books. So I don't have this book on me, and this isn't an official recommendation. It's just a novella. But if you have read the Caraval series, the little novella that came out last year, the Christmas novella, I think it was called Spectacular. I loved that book. That was such a fun little Christmas read, and I highly recommend it. Moving on to my winter TBR for this year, starting strong. I have been saying I would read this book in the winter for like the past 3 or 4 winters. I am almost 26 years old, and I have never read the Harry Potter series. I absolutely love the movies, and I just never read the books. So this year, finally, I am committing myself to reading the Harry Potter series. I did start, I'm about 4 chapters in. I have started this book so many times, and this isn't a criticism because it just is what it is, but the fact that it is a YA book and it reads like YA makes it very hard for me to get through those first few chapters. And I am almost positive that it's not going to feel that way the whole time. So I'm really trying to push through. And I am pretty lucky because I have a terrible memory, and I have watched the Harry Potter movies so many times, but I truly, genuinely am not the type of person that could tell you what happened in those movies, besides maybe the first one. So reading these books is going to be like the first time I've ever read them or heard the story, and that is so exciting to me. This next book, I am so excited to read. One of my favorite YouTubers is Sarah Crowley, and I have read multiple of her favorite books, and they always end up being some of my favorite books. So I know that I can trust her recommendations, and this is one of her favorite books, one of her 5-star books, and that is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. And I am just so excited to read this. I have been waiting all year because I knew I needed to read it in the winter. I don't know much about this book besides the fact that it is toxic and there are some ice skaters, figure skaters, I think, and they have a very toxic relationship. And that just sounds like a perfect book to me. So I'm excited to read that one. This next book I also know nothing about, but it's pretty short, and it was my book of the month pick a while ago. A lot of these books that are on my winter TBR are just books that have been on my physical TBR, and I'm really trying to get my physical TBR down. So I'm trying to get all of my winter books off of it during the winter because I won't read them any other time. So anyways, that is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. Pretty much the only thing I know about this book is that it was like an award-winning book, I think, like a year or 2 ago. And there's books on the cover, and books about books gives cozy to me, and cozy gives winter or fall. So I'm going to read this winter, hopefully. Okay, truly, I have zero idea why this is on my winter TBR. So maybe you could actually tell me, but it is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I have had this book since it came out, and I just haven't gotten into it. And I'm not sure why. Really want to read this book, so I'm going to try to do it this winter. This book is a cozy fantasy book. Again, I know nothing about it. If you don't know, I don't care to know what my books are about before I start reading them. I just like to go in blind, and that's why I can't give you any descriptions. But I do know this is a cozy fantasy. I got it from Fairy Loot about a year ago, and I think it's time to read it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of cozy fantasies. And that is The Teller of Small Fortunes. And can we just talk about how pretty this book is? I love it. If you've read any of these books that are on my winter TBR, please let me know what you thought of them, because maybe that will encourage me to read them. Okay, and then this last book I have started reading, and I just think that for Christmas time, you need to read a romance, like a rom-com style Christmas book. And that is exactly what I'm doing, because I am currently reading Good Spirits by B.K. Pearson. I've never read a book by this author, but I am loving this book so far. I'm about 70% of the way through, and I'm just having a great time. I love these characters. They're so cute together, and I love the dynamic and how weird it is, but I'm just having a good time. So that is my winter recommendations and TBR video. If you have any recommendations, or if you've read any of my recommendations or TBR books, please let me know. Maybe encourage me to read them, or give me some better recommendations for the winter. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great time. I know I did, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.